Now, guys, while I was in hospital and out of commission, a very big event took place in the world of soccer. I haven't had the chance to talk to either of you about it, so I hope you'll indulge me. John, Manchester United appointed Ole Gunnar Solskjær as their coach, head coach on a 3-year contract. It's a massive deal. And I wonder what you made of it. Do you think it was premature to give him the job? Do you think he'd earned the job? Would you have made the appointment that they did at the time that they did?
Well, I'll answer the last question first, Simon. I think if Pochettino, and I said before, had been available, I would have gone for him.
Right.
I think he's proven himself. I think Solskjaer has yet to prove himself despite what he's done. Now, I don't think he could have done any better than he did on a temporary basis than he has done, Eamon. Now, I think my take on it is when it comes into being a permanent manager, it's a different situation altogether.
Yes.
Because, the players had to prove, and I think they did prove, that Mourinho was at fault for the way they were playing. So he get, obviously, when you're coming in as a new manager, that's a plus for the new manager because the players now are all on side. He doesn't have to make in the time he's been there. I mean, he hasn't had to make the big decisions. For example, if they sign 3 new players, which I think they're thinking of doing in the summer, then somebody has to be left out of the side. Now he has to disappoint somebody. Now there's a possibility of falling out somebody. It's a different game altogether that he's going into now than the one in which he took over early on.
Yeah.
And again, he couldn't have done any better than he's done. Whether it's good for a permanent situation where he really, really does have to manage now next season and manage players and not put his arm around them and make all the hard decisions that other managers have had to make who have made us to the top remains to be seen.
Right. Didi, what's your take on the Ole Gunnar Solskjær question? And I'll ask you the same questions I asked John. Would you have given him the job? Would you have given him the job now, or would you have looked elsewhere?
There's not an awful lot to add. What John said, I see exactly the same. It's a huge difference being the caretaker, being a temporary manager, or being in charge full time. You know, the relationship with the players will be different because when you first came in, I think they were all happy to see the back of Mourinho. And probably anybody who would have gone in there would have got a reaction. That he gets such a reaction out of them was remarkable, and I think that's why he probably deserved the job to be given now.
Yes.
We shouldn't forget how much, and I'm not a big believer in hard luck, bad luck, or luck. But if you just watch the PSG game,
yes,
I think they used a lot of their luck away to Paris. Yes, they did go through. Bigger tests to come now, and they've done ever so well because they hung in there. He gave him a belief again to do it. But I think that game showed, even though they did go through, I think that game showed how far behind they are behind the European top teams at the moment. And the only thing I would say, the length of the contract, I would have given him maybe a couple of years. 3 years is a long time because things could go awfully wrong because they need players.
They do.
The question will be, do they get the players they need to get out or they want out? Well, they get him out there on huge wages. So I think that will be a big test to get some of the players out. And I don't see United win the Premier League in the next 2-3 years. So I would have rather seen a 2-year contract maybe to give the club a bit more security, because I think they have to restructure. And I think it'll take at least 2 or 3 years before we talk about Manchester United as a European powerhouse again.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. John, I think Didi's right. I welcomed the appointment on the basis that he had done an awful lot, and he'd done an awful lot that was right. For example, he did show willingness to leave Lukaku out, to leave Sanchez out. And in the case of Lukaku in particular, it was difficult. He was leaving him out for Rashford, who wasn't proven as a centre forward. But I do feel that I just put this to both of you then before I let you go. The two great managers of that Manchester United club were Matt Busby, who you played for, John, and I did indeed, and Alex Ferguson. Both of them knighted, Sir Matt Busby, Sir Alex Ferguson. Both of them big characters with big, strong ideas who knew how to dominate that institution. In the case of Busby, indeed, to create it. And when you're measuring up Solskjær against those two guys, you think, no way, baby. And I've got that feeling inside me, even though I did welcome the appointment.
Well, I mean, you're comparing them with two of the best managers of all time. It's a difficult job. I'm just looking at it now in a situation where coming into the position that he came into, he has done remarkably well. He's done everything that's been asked of him. I'm just taking the circumstances into it. You know, Busby didn't take over in these circumstances. Ferguson didn't take over in these circumstances. They started from scratch to go and do what they did, and they did it. They eventually did it. It took them a little bit of time with Alex Ferguson, but it's just a different job, you know. I mean, when Ferguson came into Manchester United, they hadn't been doing very, very well. So we started from scratch doing it the way he did it, and it took him a little bit of time to do it. Solskjaer has been, and he did it with the history and his background of the job that he did in Scotland, which was remarkably good, as we know.
Yes, it was.
Now, Solskjaer has come in as the caretaker manager in a situation where I think the fixtures suited, the situation suited him. Now he's starting on a different job altogether. Now, it could well be that he'll finish up one of the great managers. I'm only expressing my doubts at the moment that I would go for a Pochettino who has proven himself over the last four years as a manager. Yeah. I think in the job that faces Solskjaer, he still has to prove himself again, in a much more difficult situation than on the temporary basis from which he took over.
Okay.